So yesterday we were doing the verse number, the sutra number 34, and we will proceed from there. Uh, we are doing well in terms of, even though it's a little, it's a terse subject matter, so it takes a little time, but we are progressing just about fine. Now, the verse number 33, the sutra number 33, Sukha Sukhayor Vahirmananam. So, the jnani, who is at a very high level of self awareness and concentration, how does it play out for him? A good example is given. Our whale, who sort of all over dives and swims much deeper than the surface of the ocean. So you may be having a stormy situation because of a weather condition, but the whale is least affected. He is very much in the ocean, but he's not affected. He might come to the fore, he may come to the surface. Even when he comes to the surface, he might just look around and go down, or he may continue. He's not affected by it. It is a person who is vulnerable to changes in the water surface. You have to balance yourself. You're on a small boat, obviously, you're in a dangerous condition. It doesn't make any difference to a whale or a big shark which is swimming in that stormy sea. Similarly, sukhayor vahirmananam. The concentration of this person. So, first thing is that we are accepting some sense of a proximity between the emotions that this yogi experiences, and yet that he stays within himself. But that proximity of experiences is being granted. We do have a situation where you are kind of surrounded by experiences of pleasure and pain. You are not untouched by it. Who is the good example? You remember Thakur, once there were a lot of poor people who were coming to him for support, for help. And once he requested Mathur Mahasaya, he said, "Can you please ensure your best sadhana? Can you ensure something for these poor people?" And he said, "Okay, I'll start one Anna Chatra, free distribution of food." And then during the plague situation in Bengal, what did Swamiji say? He threatened the sannyasis, the monks in the order. He said, "You are doing bhajan here. Do you know people are dying outside? You go distribute medicines. Otherwise, I'm going to sell this ashram." These are the situations of proximity with pleasure and pain. But the yogi is not affected. He's least affected. He is not himself identifying with any of these. He doesn't have any fear of death or this and that, but he expresses concern, he expresses empathy and love and everything, but he is not directly affected. Sukha sukhayor bahir mananam. Now, there are a lot of examples, and there are a lot of other couplets. So, na dukkham na sukham yatra na grahyo grahako nacha. There is no grahya, there is no grahaka. Experiencer and the experienced, the object of your experience. Object of experience is sukha dukkha. Nachasti mudha bhavopi tadasti paramarthataha. So, in real sense, what exists is that self awareness and is not affected. In Astavakra Gita, you know, one of the commentators has quoted it, is very useful. When a person has transcended desires or cravings, how does he live? He is a Jivan Mukta. He's already self realized. How does he live his life? So the couplet mentions, it goes like this: Nirvasano niralambaha swachhavai muktavandhanaha shiptaha sanskaravatena cheshtate suska parnavat. Now, you have a dry piece of leaf. That leaf is already, it has snapped its ties with the tree, but it may float around in air It has nothing to do with the leaf, it has everything to do with the air in which it is moving. Similarly, because of prarabdha, khiptaha sanskaravatena. Sanskara here refers to the prarabdha and tadjanita sanskara, whatever you have. So there is a Durga Puja, you would go and do a puja, you have to go take a bath, and there's a Kumbh Mela, you might go, you'll do all that. Because these are deep seated impressions in you. But the difference between a common person and a Jivana Mukta, a self realized person, is like this, that a normal person identifies with all these activities, he goes and does everything. But the Jivana Mukta is seen as doing all that, but he doesn't have a sense of agency, he's not affected by it. Shiptaha sanskaravatena cheshtate suska parnavat, like a dry leaf moves around because of the pressure of wind. It's not doing anything on its own. That Jivanmukta Purusha is moved by his prarabdha. He is not having a sense of agency. Nirvasano niralambha. Why so? Because he has no vasana. There is no craving anymore. Niralambha. He is completely nirapeksha. He is not dependent on anything. Karma, these, that. He is not doing anything. Swachho Vedana Mukta Bandhanaha. And he's transparent. He's free from all kinds of bondages of karma, because we have already studied that in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, everywhere. All the sanchita karmas get destroyed with Atmajnana, and then all the agami karmas cease to have any influence on you. Only prarabdha stays, and that would still show some action, but you are not, even though affected outwardly, you are not affected inwardly. What happens to these sanskaras, like, somebody offers you a lot of money or power, or you're a monk, and then one very young beautiful film star or a model who comes to distract your attention, will they succeed? Same Ashtavakra Gita says, nirvasanam harim drishtva tusni vishayadantinah palayante na saktaste sevante kritachatavaha. So all these people will come to disturb this Jivana Mukta. But what sort of a person he is? He is nirvasana. He is free from desires and cravings. So that sort of a Hari he is. He has transcended all. Harim drishva tushnim vishaya dantinaha. All these dantis, big elephants. What kind of elephants? These objects of sense pleasure who trouble normal people. If you show a sports car or a good SUV, luxury car, it immediately creates certain distractions in the mind of a child or a teenager, a young person. Oh, lovely car. What if I had it? Anything that anybody says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go there, you have in the back of your mind some kind of a thought. What if I could experience that happiness? Tushnim Vishadantina, they all get silenced the moment they look at this Jivanamukta Purusha, because they know he's far more superior to them. They cannot do anything. Palayante na saktahati. They are unable to create any ripples in the minds of one Jivanamukta Purusha. Therefore, they go away. Sevante Krutachatavaha. And then they return. Why? To take orders from him. They take orders from this guru. Why? Because he's completely absorbed in himself. Done. Now we are again going back to the Sutra number 34, which we have done, but we haven't done the tikas. We'll look at it. Tad vimuktastu kevali. Now there is some sanskara. Okay. So tad vimuktastu kevali. And then when you are free from tad, means all the sukhas and dukhas and everything, you are completely Advaita Nishta. So what is the distinction between the guy who is dealing with Sutra number 33 and now Sutra number 34? The guy who is in Sutra number 34, he has traveled to a very high level of unity with the Supreme Divine. So the Leela in his life is also kind of over. He's not doing any Leela anymore. He's not trying to be compassionate, Loka Sangraha, some kind of activity outwardly. Neither any activities inwardly nor any activities outwardly. He is not subject to any kind of activities. So if we look at as we do Ramakrishnananda Sagara, uh, Krishnananda Sagara, Acharya Krishnananda Sagara. So let's look at him. Sukha Dukhor Vahir Mananam Tad Vimuktastu Kevali, how he introduces the subject. प्रशांत देह प्राणादि प्रमातृभावस्य अस्य यतः नान्तः सुख दुःखयोः स्पर्शनं भवति तत एव योगी तद्विमुक्तस्तु केवली. So this is an extension of the sutra number 33. The 33rd says, 34th one says tadvimuktastu kevali. So he has got kaivalya prapti. Why? Because he's completely free from any proximity of sukha dukkha, outward, inward. No, he is absolutely free from it. Why so? He's saying prasanta deha pranadi pramatri bhavasya. So you have different kind of pramatri bhava. In Jaina Darshana, they categorize knowers into different categories. The guy who is a mumukshu, he wants to know about something. A guy who is in samsara, he wants to know about something. They are all knowers, but there's a gradation. Their goals are different. What they know, how they know, what is the subject matter, these are all different. Here he's saying, if you have deha bhimana and you are a pramata, then you are talking about the material reality around yourself. You're very concerned about your food, your health, you have a body consciousness overwhelmingly present in your I-ness and your knower self. Similarly, prana, so prana, then Vijnanamaya Kosha, all the prana. So different kinds of levels of existence or levels of awareness of different aspects of yourself. And accordingly, you have different ways in which you are aware of yourself. Prashanta, that has been pacified. You are not troubled by it. You don't have body consciousness. You are not identifying with pranas or your intellect. You are not identifying with any of these. Pramatri bhavasya asya yoginah, of this yogi, yatah na anta sukha dukhayoha sparshanam bhavati. Pleasure and pain cannot even go close to this kind of a sadhaka. They cannot even touch. Sukh dukh se chhu bhi nahi sakte. What to talk about whether he would be sukhi or dukhi. Uske paas bhi nahi pahunchte. Tataiva yogi tadvimuktastu kevali. Therefore, that yogi is referred to at this high level as somebody who is in a state of kaivalya prapti. Purva sutroktam Sukha dukhabhyam antakarana dharmabhyam. Sukha and dukha are dharmas of what? Sukha dukha are not qualities associated with your body or mind. They are antakarana dharma. Antakarana manobuddhi ahankara associated with that I'm sad or happy or whatever. Vimukta Vimuktaha sanskarena api anta asansprushta. You're free from it and you are not even touched by it. No way. Yogindra Kevali Chinmaya iti kathyate. That kind of a yogi, Yogindra, master of sadhakas, master of the yogis, is a Yogindra. He is already having that Unmajana state. Tathacha yogi sukha dukhadi vijnana vikalpena anekashaha akalpitam api dvaita jnanam nirasya yoga phalam apnuyat. What about experience of phenomenal reality? He has to board a bus. He has to buy a ticket. He has to show his I card at the airport. He has to file his income tax. What about all that? So these are some aspects of reality you cannot deny. They are not kalpita, they are akalpita. What is kalpita? Snake is kalpita. Looking at a snake in a rope, that is imagined reality. Dream, imagined reality. But that we are talking right now, is it an imagined reality? No. We are talking, it's a verifiable reality. He's saying even these verifiable facts about his life, that means the phenomenal, Vyavaharika Satya, Vyavaharika Vastavata, he's saying Nirasya, he refutes, he transcends, he goes beyond it. Anekasa akalpitam api dvaita jnanam nirasya yoga phalam. So even though some akalpita dvaita jnana is taking roots in you because of your sense experiences, he is able to discard them. Why? Bhagavan has mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Guneshu Vartante iti Matvana Satyate. He's not troubled by these things. Yeah, these things are happening. My ear is there, some music someone is playing, it's listening, but I am not listening because I'm not my ears. And some sadhakas, some gurus also give the example of Lord Krishna. He had gone to, there was a, Yamuna was in spate and he had to go to the other side. The gopis had invited him for a sumptuous dinner, and then the only technique he had to cross over Yamuna is to tell Yamunama that if I'm hungry, I have not eaten anything, allow me to go to the other side. They have invited me for dinner. And she allowed him. And he went to the other side, had dinner. While coming back, he said the same thing at the Ganges. And the gopis were flabbergasted. He said, "What? You just had a wonderful dinner with us, and you're telling Ma Yamuna that if I have not anything, let me go to the other side." And Yamunama allowed him. He said, "What is this game going on?" He said, "Look, I didn't have anything with you. Then who had? The body had. This is a physical body you are talking about. I can't have anything. Everything is mine. You don't even understand who am I. That's why you're asking this very innocent question. I love your questioning, but there's nothing to do with who am I. That Yogindra, it's not that he's not passing through a material reality and sets of experiences in his everyday life, but he's in that Kaivalya state and therefore he's absolutely untouched by all this. Dvaita Jnanam Nirasya Yoga Phalam Apnuya Tu Shavada Agrima Sutra Apekshaya Vishesata Dyotakaha. So therefore, why? Because in the next one, we will have, sometimes you get a counter example. Something which is opposite to this can happen in a state, and we're going to discuss that. That's why this tu sabda is there. तथा एव अग्रिमस्थोपि तु शब्दः पूर्व सूत्र अपेक्षया विशेषता व्यंजकः. In the next sutra also there is a tu. So sutra number 34 and sutra number 35, they are talking about two different states of the yogi. One who is established at the highest level of meditative self-equanimity, self-awareness. The other one, when he is distracted, he has fallen. He's confused because of whatever Purva Pratibandhaka, Purva Papa, Purva Prarabdha. A lot of these people at a very, like you had Vishwamitra, isn't it? He lost his concentration, isn't it? He lost his concentration. This kind of things do happen in sadhaka. So it's not about rising and rising. You could fall at any moment. The moment you become a little absent-minded, you can fall. And that's what we're going to discuss in the next one. But before that, I'll quickly touch upon whatever is written by Kshemaraja in Siva Sutra Bimarshini. Yatascha uttirna उर्यष्टक प्रमर्त्यभावस्य योगिनः न अंतः सुख दुःख संस्पर्शः अत एव असौ. We had done this tika already yesterday. So uttirna puryashtaka pramatra. Puryashtaka is that sukshma sarira and identification with this. And this kind of a yogi absolutely isn't touched by sukha and dukkha. And in this case, sabhyam, sukha dukkha abhyam, visheshana muktaha is specifically free from any influence of sukha and dukkha The experience of sadness, pleasure, and pain, sanskara matrinapi antara asangspushtaha, even though there is experience, past experience of sukha dukkha with them. You might say that he is not experiencing because he is now wise. But he was very fond of watching cricket as a teenager. Now he's a great yogi. And then there's a fall of a wicket and people are sad, or somebody has hit a six and people are clapping. Is he not distracted? No. Even Purva Sanskara doesn't do anything to him. Asangsprishtaha kevali kevalam chinamatra pramatrita rupam. That is, we were discussing yesterday, that the highest level of pramatrita is without a prameya, without any pramana. You have that. So he has that Shiva consciousness. Chinamatra pramatritva rupam yasya taduktam si kalikakrame. In the text, sukhadi vigyana vikalpa Anakal, analpakalpitam, vitva dveta mahamoham yogi yoga phalam labhet. What happens? Sukha dukkhadi vijnana vikalpa. So you have sukha and dukkha, and then you have some experience of it, and you see all that. And as I just mentioned, that these are not completely imaginary, delusional things. You have had sense experience of these pleasure and pain, but you go beyond that. Bhitva dveta mahamoham, that powerful delusional influence of Dvaita, duality, that I am Sukhi, Dukhi, these are objects of pleasure, these are objects of pain. You go beyond that, yogi, yoga, phalam, labhet. When you are able to cut asunder this veil of Maya, can you ever experience the benefit of this yoga? Tu shabdo vakshaman apekshya vishesha dvetakaha evam uttara sutra gatopi etat sutra apekshya. So this is what we have said. Tu shabda is there in this sutra and is also there in the Agrima Sutra. However, there is a danger. And that's what, we have Vidya Sanghari. We had done it earlier also. So you may be in a state of pure meditation and you're doing very well, and suddenly you stop doing that sadhana. It's quite possible that you might see again dreamy delusions in life. They may attract you back. One has to be very careful. Same thing he's mentioning here. Mohena ajnanena pratisanghatah tadeka ghanah tata eva sukha dukkha ashrayo yaha saha punah karamatma nityam subha subhatmaka subha subha kalankitaha. You may go to a very high level of meditation, okay? Moho pratisangatastu. But then, by whatever, maybe Purva Papa, maybe some curse of some guru, maybe whatever wrong, some past life Pratibandhaka you may have. As a result of which, what happens? You get deluded again. In case you get deluded, it's not that you will get deluded. He's saying, in case a person who is a Kaivalya Prapta yogi, if he gets deluded again, that is the danger that you have to all the time understand. To karmatma, then you again become a doer. What do you mean by being a doer? You are again trapped in that sense of agency, a sense of agency of good and evil deeds. This is something I should do, this is something I shouldn't do, and then you have anxieties associated with it. Okay, that is what he's mentioning. So let's first do here, because it's a very short one, we would look at the Kshemaraja Siva Sutra Vimarshini, and then from there on, we will just give me a second. Yeah. So from there on, we'll go back to the Krishnananda Sagara, commentary of Acharya Krishnananda Sagara. So first, he's saying, Yada Vidya Vrittataya Vikalpa Vidhiyogataha शिवादीन नैव झटिति समुद्भावयेत् समुद्भावयेत् भावयते खिलान् ततः शुभ शुभा भावा लक्ष्यन्ते तद्वसत्वतः अशुभेभ्यः च भावेभ्यः परं दुःखं प्रजायते. So this is a warning in sadhana kala. We've got to be very careful. Yada vidya vritataya. Yad avidya abritataya. I mean, you have left avidya behind. You are already in the kaivalya state. Why should you be disturbed? You're saying yad, the person, in case. Avidya abritataya vikalapa vidhi yogataha. And then again you have sankalpa vikalpa, and then you have these dualities, thought processes, back to samsara. This is what happens with a lot of spiritual retreats. A lot of people go on health retreats because they have some cholesterol, they have sugar, and with all that, they pay a heavy amount of money these days, and they go to some nature retreat, and they have boiled food and herbs and a lot of healthy juices and some massage, good exercise. You're breathing very clean air in the Himalayas, or some nature retreat. There are quite a few now coming up in Bangalore. You have some Ayurvedic medicine and food and everything. And then what happens? The 10-day retreat is over. You have paid your money and you're free and you're back. Where are you back? In your corporate office. And what do you have there? French fries and Coke, coffee, meeting, deadlines, and death by PowerPoints. You have these, you have two kinds of bullets. One is the PowerPoint bullets. So you are caught up in the vicious cycle that you wanted to get rid of by going there. You are back. Then you consume, and in 3 days, you regain the weight you have lost, and the vital parameters that had shown some signs of improvement slowly, they slide back to where you were. And there are global studies, a lot of people who do extra hard work to shun a lot of fat, and they reduce by 15 kilos, 20 kilos, and generally within 2 years they go back to that old state. This is not to say that a person who is a sadhaka, who is ascending to a very high plane, will have to necessarily slide back to this state. No, it's about some who get deluded again. That's a warning sign. Why they get deluded? He's saying, Shivadin naiva jhatiti samudbhavayate. Shivadin, starting with Lord Shiva, you have all these 33 tattvas until Prithvi tattva. So you have Panchabhutas and all that, Sankhyas, and go up, right? All the 36 tattvas we have discussed again and again. So, Sivadin, starting with Shiva until Prithvi Tattva, Naiva Jhatiti Samudbhavayate. So, they do not understand that essentially it's that Shiva Tattva, it's that Chinmaya Chidrupa Satta. It's manifested as real, and we are trapped there. If we understand that is pure consciousness, then we can make a return journey to self awareness. They don't do it, Akhilan. Tataha subha subha bhava lakhyante tad vasatvatah. Tad vasatvatah tad vasat ajnana vasat. First, it's like, it's like this happens with a lot of people who are dealing with problems of, you talk to them and their experiences, you talk to the people who are trying to help them. There are many prominent people who are victims of it, those who are dealing with substance addiction, substance abuse. So they leave everything. They become perfectly, the word used for them is sober. They become very sober, very good, wonderful. Everything is back in their control. Their wives are very happy, super happy. Children are super happy. They're back in their house. A few weeks, and then one friend says, you have a relapse. Somebody offers him a drink, or somebody offers him a cigarette, and he's back to where he had left. And then he's the same old person. The person who they thought had left returns to trouble them. And that addict is not the person they knew. They are remembering the good guy they knew, but he has become an addict. So he troubles mostly the mothers and sisters and brothers. They suffer. Okay, that's what he's mentioning here, that tataha suva suva bhava lakhyante tad vasatvatah. The way that ajnana vasat, because that addiction returns and all the associated evils also come back as friends and family. Same way, this guy who was in a high state of kaivalyasthiti, returns to a level of entrapment and constant distraction by sansara and objects of pain and pleasure. And then what happens? Asubhebhyascha bhavebhyah param dukkham prajayate. And all these pleasure and pain that experiences, remember one thing. If a normal guy, this is what is mentioned, if a normal guy who's a sinner, he's a habitual sinner, he's a habitual violator of laws and regulations, okay? He doesn't have any mental problem. He might indulge in corruption, cheating, lies, disloyalty. He's not troubled too much. Do you know who is actually troubled? Who's a good guy? And he had recovered. He wanted to return and enjoy his purity. By mistake, when he commits an error, remember this guy has got introduction to that higher level of experience of truth. So if you never had any money, you lose money. What do you lose? You lose little money. You never had money. But if you have money and you are lost, you are very troubled because you crave for that level of prosperity which was a part of your life. Similarly, this guy, Asubhebhyasya bhavebhyah param dukkham prajayate, he is intensely pained, he is intensely troubled by this fall. This is the purpose. The purpose is to actually warn and alert the sadhaka that you are sort of negotiating. You may see some videos to make sense of it. You know, these mountain bikers, so it's very dangerous. So they're on a bike, they scale steep heights, and if there is any error, they will slip down, they could die. But then they practice and they go. Generally, they choose mud mountains and mud slopes. So, but it's all about practice. But they are told in advance you have to wear your safety gear because if you slip, you're going down. There is no guarantee that you're going to stop at a point where you feel safer or you can survive. There's no guarantee. While going down, you don't know where you will land up. You just could die. That's a given. That's a default position. Okay, as I said, death is the ultimate reward. That's what is going to happen. Similarly, this is a warning sign for the sadhaka saying that you are already scaling a great height and the risks of sliding down, falling, losing balance. You remember that if you take your eyes off that Shiva Tattva, that self, then you're going to go down. You know, yesterday, today morning, we had an interaction in which there was a scientist who was making a presentation. I liked his way of looking at it. Why was Swami Vivekananda carrying two books with him when he was a wanderer? He was carrying Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that was one book. The other one was The Imitation of Christ. And why he was carrying it? Because it's not about philosophy which enriches your life. It's about our strive, our efforts to approximate, to stick to hang on to that ideal which we want to realize. And that is what is there in The Imitation of Christ, where there's a motivational book as to how to imitate Lord Christ, how to imitate, how to be like him. And there's several books like that. But this one was something which touched it. So, you know, somebody like Swami Vivekananda realized the importance of constantly reinforcing the energy within to keep walking forward and keep walking up, climbing up. The fear of a failure, the fear of a downward slide can never be ruled out in spiritual life. One quick reward is depression, some mild depression, because you have a sense of loss. That's a given. You have to accept it. Some kind of a depression might strike you. But as you move forward, this depression, as you are going up and up, these moments of depression can be very painful. That's what he's saying. Bhavebhyah param dukkham prajayate. That is the, now let's look at the Krishnananda, Acharya Krishnananda Sagara. Yattu savdena uktam antaram tadeva sankarha kathayati Moha pratisangatastu karmatma. Moha. What is that moha? Moha means he is explaining. Moha nama nijakhyatmaka ajnanam tena pratisangataha. When you forget yourself, you know, it's like a little boy who was very serious and shouting at his mom and his elder sister that you didn't wake me up in time. I had to finish this course and this and that. Tomorrow morning he has examination. In the evening he gets a call. There's a birthday party of his dearest friend. And he runs away from his study room, tells mom, I have to go. He's my best friend. Mom says, what about your exams? I have done it. Don't you worry. And then he goes. Mom knows about this mischievous boy and asks his elder sister to accompany him. And the elder sister sacrifices her studies to go with the little brother. And they go to the birthday party and he's dancing and having fun and ice cream and everything. And then he completely forgets about his examination until the elder sister, who has been given a very bad task, he says, you don't want to come? I'm going to call mom. I'm going to go back. I have my lessons to do. Then, with a lot of difficulty, he comes and he starts shouting at his sister the moment he reaches his study room. He says, it's already 10. How do I finish whatever is remaining? Why didn't you remind me at 8:30? The sister said, but I have told you. I looked at you thrice, 4 times. I was smiling. You didn't understand. No, you should have pulled me out. That is the situation. He's saying what happens is that nijakhyatmaka ajnanam. When you forget your responsibility, who you are, then you are trapped. Tena pratisangataha. Prapta tadatmya bhavaha. Pratisangata means what you are identifying with that self who wants to be in a birthday party. So you want to have that strong identification with the birthday boy who's a close friend of yours, and you're forgetting your examinations. And that's what happens in the life of a sadhaka. And that's why a lot of sadhakas are kind of warned. Once you are doing satsang, you have to somewhere stay away from friends who are going in a different direction. They may be very good people, but they could be very harmful for you because their lifestyles are different, their goals of life are different. So you have to pick and choose what kind of friends that you want to associate with so that you can extend your satsang, which is 1 hour long or maybe a couple of hours in a week. You can expand it into everyday life by picking up people who have similar orientation. Sukha dukkhasrayo bhavati sakarmatma sansari jivo. He becomes a sansari. Nityam papa punyabhyam pradushita jayate. He's contaminated. He's infected with sansara experience, papa and punya, pleasure and pain, something which is auspicious and something which is inauspicious. Yathoktam ajnaniko ghana nityam shubha shubha kalankitaha. When you identify with ajnana, you become one with that ignorance or faulty understanding, then obviously, even though you are nitya suddha buddha swabhavaha, but you become shubha shubha kalankitaha. So you have that karma mala, subha subha vasana. Why we want to do anything in samsara and jump around and achieve things? Because you have shubha that will give you happiness or pleasure, and asubha that you want to avoid. That is how samsara starts. Ajnana avaranina, because of that deluding covering of ajnana, nanavida sambandhat, and there you have different kinds of relations. Yaha yogi akhilan shivadin satrinshat tatvani achiradeva naiva gameti. He doesn't understand this duality of this sansara, this diversity and everything. Is just an expansion of that supreme consciousness in a material form. It's only a projection. He fails to understand it, and therefore he gets trapped. Tatah tad vasibhutena cha asya yoginaha, and therefore he's vasibhuta, he's in the control of those sukha dukha anubhutis or experiences. Shubha shubha bhavaha drishyante. Then he realizes this is good, this is bad. Thomas Hobbes mentions in his Leviathan, my mom gave birth to twins, me and fear. And he says that pleasure and pain. Everyone is moved by these two powerful forces. Whatever gives us pain, we call evil or bad. Whatever gives us pleasure, we call good. There's nothing called good or bad. It's all about what you experience. what it pleases you or it doesn't please you. Accordingly, you will call it bad or good. Then he mentions asubhebhyah bhavyasya atyantam dukham prajayate tatha tad vasibhutena cha tasya yoginah subha subhabah drishyante asubhebhyo bhavebhyascha atyantam dukham prajayate. We have already discussed that. Yato hi moodha praninah ghatapatadi vedya vastu vikalpa jala kalpanam astitasya kalpanam astritasya. You have all these objects, ghata pata, this is a car, this is a house, this I have to do, all kinds of tasks. I'm not saying they don't exist, but a person on the path of sadhana realizes that these are appearances. They have limited significance for somebody's life. He's not, that sort of allows you the freedom not to be troubled as much. By the way, many spiritual people have had a lot of mental agonies. There is evidence that a lot of the monks in the Catholic order, in Buddhist order, in Hindu order, they go through severe depression at times. Okay, it's not that a spiritual life is completely free from alterations in the state of one's mind, but the reason for those alterations or these ups and downs is different from what a sansari feels. But remember, this mind will operate the way it is trained to operate. It will have this Trigunatmika Maya. You have Sattva, Tamas, and Rajas. They may not be tamasic, but in Sattva, you have hidden Rajas. Why am I not very successful? Why my meditation didn't succeed today? You have same Rajas playing out in a Sattvic domain for you. And you can have stress. Why am I not getting the kind of understanding? You might read a book and you don't understand, you might feel frustrated. There are external circumstances. You wanted to have darshan of the temple, you reached and the temple closed. Why God is so unkind to me? All these kinds of thoughts can come and disturb a good sadhaka. In fact, the dangers of a sadhaka getting troubled in spiritual life is relatively higher than a person who is in sansara, because he's not concerned with anything. If there is a bit of disturbance, a backbencher is not troubled. Is the front bencher, who is the one who is doing very well in studies, he gets disturbed. So the sadhakas are like front benchers, and they need to be extra careful about protecting their mental health. And this is a critical issue. Therefore, he's saying, Yato hi moodha praninah ghatapatadi vedya vastu vikalpa jala kalpanam astitasya sivadi tattvanam anuttara chidrupa swabhavataya avimarshataha माह्य मलमलिनतां प्राप्य शुभाशुभ कार्ममल samutha dukhanubhava jayate. Long sentence, I will simplify it. You know that you have karmamala, you have anavamala, you have mayamala in between. Okay, the karmamala creates subha vasana. Mayamala, a faulty understanding. Anavamala, you simply do not realize who you are. You forget that self identity. Okay, so what he is trying to say here is, because they are tainted with that Maya Mala, we have already discussed that in the Saktopaya second chapter. I'm not revisiting it for paucity of time. And then he is driven into the game which he has to play, because he is contaminated with Karma Mala, the Subhashuva Vashana, and he will be moving around. Earlier he was meditating, now he will be maybe doing ashrams and doing this and that and all kinds of things. But remember, these are not useless things. You'll say Thakur, Swami Vivekananda established Ramakrishna Mission. No, these are noble things. One has to be all the time on guard all the time. You have to realize that you have to be careful. So an electrician, he always wears the safety gear, right? All the engineers, they wear their helmets. Similarly, all the sadhakas know where there is a threat to their peace of mind. So you know what are the risks, right? Some of your students may be bad in the classroom. You're a professor. You know you have to be careful. How do you deal with these kinds of threats? Similarly, he's saying Subhasuva dukha sukha dukhadi anubhava jayate. He experiences pleasure and pain. Why? He's become a karmatma. Avimarshatah, because the absence of that vimarsha, that vichara, that all these are playing out, but this is only Shiva Tattva. Because of that, Maya Malamalinatam Prapya. You have done it. Kintu Tattva Vidaha, then the person who is a Tattvavid, Bhava Patale Swatma, Bilasitam Idam Sarvam Asti. But the Jnani is slightly opposite. He's in samsara, everything is happening. He's in that, he's a Lilamaya Purusha. He says, yeah, yeah, it's all part of, everything is me only. Swatma vilasitam idam sarvam asti. That's what he understands. Everything is just a expression of my purity. That Shiva Tattva. Everything is just a projection of it. Everything is Lord Shiva. He's not troubled. Itham swanubhavena then pravivichya, then he understands this. Pravinchanasya sahaja chidrupa ghanasya avirbhava bhavati. So you have that chidrupa ghana avirbhava. Then there is a beautiful thing. This is the beauty of going up and coming down. You know what is the next sutra? Remember that this person is in the path of sadhana for a long time. He becomes a karmatma because he's deluded. And it's like you have a billionaire and suddenly he files for bankruptcy. He's not being able to return the debt he has taken towards his investment. His project failed. So he files for bankruptcy, and people think now he's going to beg around. No, nothing of that sort. Just smart Alec. Within 3-4 years, if he's intelligent, he makes a turnaround. He regains his position. There are companies which are folded up. We don't even know where did they go. Like you have Enron or many big corporates, MNCs. They vanish like Dave. You don't even know what happened to them. Just quickly they vanish. Okay, like a pack of cards, they fall and they vanish. But then there are a lot of companies, they make a turnaround, isn't it? Big companies, they know where to cut the corners and where to reinvest, where to put attention. They call it restructuring and they do well. They survive. Similarly, the sadhaka who might suddenly get the appearance of a karmatma, he has powerful punya. Then you know what they say is, he meets his acharya, his guru, and guru says, "What are you doing?" Then he does a sakti path. That anugraha sakti, you have this panchakriti as well out Shiva, right? Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirobhava, and Anugraha. Tirobhava is the game of deluding us, and Anugraha is opening our eyes, lifting us back. So, if Lord Shiva does Anugraha in the sense because of whatever past punyas or sadhanas, it's like a good batsman who's completely out of form and he just hits a few balls and suddenly he's back in form and hits a big century. It happens with great players, they regain their form. Similarly, this fellow, this sadhaka, with God's grace, that Shaktipata, he regains his spirituality and he becomes as good as anyone. That is what is the subject matter of the next sutra. Bheda tiraskare sargantara karamatvam. He can even create srishti, sargantara. He can create sansaras, it's big praise for his sadhana, not his sadhana. With God's grace, Bheda tiraskare, if he is able to get rid of that duality, your system is leaking because of some sort of a wrong expenditure somewhere, and you hire a good consultant, not the one who comes to make money, but somebody who can actually advise you. You have that good hand, he comes and sits and says, we're going to correct it. And he checks the seepage, the leakage of your resources, reorients business, sorts down a couple of investment proposals, and then you are back in a couple of years. Similarly, saying, let's look at this. Sarira pranadi ahanta abhimana आत्मनः भेदस्य तिरस्कारे चिद्घन स्वभाव उन्मज उन्मज्जनात् अपहस्तने सति सर्गान्तरकर्मत्वं यथा अभिलषित निर्मेय निर्मातित्वं भवति. भट्टकलट says. भेद तिरस्कारे शरीर प्राणादि ahanta abhimana atmanah. So he became a karmatma. Why? Because deha and prana and other things he identified with them. So he descended to a lower level of consciousness. But then he's now flushing out that bheda buddhi, that duality. Then what happens? Bhedasya tiraskare, chidghana swabhava, that I am pure consciousness. And then you have unmajjanat, that again reappears, which was hidden, that reappears again. Apastane sati, and when this particular duality has been removed from him, from his consciousness, sargantara karma, he recovers his spiritual power. Sargantara karmatvam yathavalisata nirmeya nirmatritvam. Nirmeya, what you want to create. Like prameya, nirmeya, nirmatritvam. He can jathavalisita, whatever he wants, he can do. He recovers his yogic powers with the grace of God. Okay, that is what is the commentary. But let's look at the evam idrusasyapi karmatmanah. This person who has become a karmatma, who is become again limited in his consciousness and is distracted, he's troubled, that kind of a person. Yada anargala mahesha saktipata vasa unmishata sahaja swatantra yogi bhavati. Anargala mahesha saktipata vasa. Because of the grace of God and the showering of benediction on him, because of his, he was a poor man, and then suddenly he finds a will somewhere, his name is mentioned, and he makes millions, he inherits millions. He can pay back his debt, and he's a rich man again, because of Purva Punya, Purva Sadhana. He encashes it. So, Sahaja Swatantra Yogo Yogi Bhavati Tada Asya, when it happens, then what? Sarira Pranadi Ahanta Abhimana Atmanaha. The person who was so far identified with his, prana and sharir and all that, his body, his vital forces. Sakala pralayakaladi pramatri uchitasya bhedasya. So it's a technical word. I'm not technical terms. I'm not getting deeper into that. We can go deeper into that. It's not that we cannot discuss that. What he's trying to say is that, these words like sakala, pralaya kala, vigyana kala. Vigyana kala is that Mahamaya Tattva. I've shared the Jayadev Singh's book with you, and that is discussed in the notes there. You can have a look at it. So in the Vijnana Kala, this Pramata experiences pure consciousness. Okay. And in the Pralaya Kala, he experiences only void. And in Sakala, he experiences all the dualities, all the tattvas. Okay. All the three malas are active in him: the Anava Mala, the Maya Mala, and the Karma Mala. So he's actually a very normal human being in the Sakala. But he's saying that this particular Karamatma, who may be having Pralayakala or a Sakala, then he ascends. That is what he's trying to say, that he goes up. Then he's saying Sakala Pralaya Kaladi Pramatri Chittasya. So Pramatri Chittasya Bhedasya, you have these dualities. Tiraskare, when you flush them out. Stitasyapi Chidgana Swabhava Unmajjanat. Then you have a reappearance of that. Okay. He recovers that unified consciousness. And then what happens? Apastane Sati, when he is able to take them away, Kramena, slowly, he becomes, what? Mantreshwara, Mantra Maheshwara. Again, these are technical terms. Okay. That is also sort of, you can also have a look at it. What is that mantra stage? Where the person, the sadhaka, experiences Shuddha Vidya. But Shuddha Vidya is one of the stages. Okay. And then Mantreshwara is Ishvara Tattva. And you have Mantra Maheshwara, is that Sadashiva. You have Shiva, Sakti, Sadashiva, Mantra Maheshwara. And then finally you have that Shuddha Vidya. Okay. So from the top is the fifth one. So it's saying that Mantra, Mantreshwara, Mantra Maheshwara. So you are at that ultimate level. All these, he recovers. He's not Shiva or Shakti. He has not gone to that top level, right? He's there. He's able to get the benefits as if he's mantra, having the power of mantra and mantreshwara and mantra maheshwara. He goes till the level of Sadashiva. And then what he says, mantra, mantra maheshwara, mantra, mantreshwara, mantra maheshwara atmaka Swamahatmya avaptavu. He retains, he regains his Swamahatmya, his own spiritual power. Sargantara karmatvam jatha bhajasita nirime nirmatritvam bhavati jathata sri swachande. So he mentions that Swachanda Tantra, Trigune tu japtena Swachanda sadruso bhavete. Trigune. There are these japas again in the Jaidev Singh book. You can have a look at it. There are three kinds of japas which are being discussed. What is japa, by the way? Japa is actually talking to yourself. It's like whispering. It's like reconnecting with yourself. And then there are different levels of doing this meditation or japa. You can have Baikhari and then, Madhyama, and then, you know, you have that, finally, you have that para stage. Okay. So Pashyanti, and so at the level of Pashyanti, you are doing only Manasika Japa, but there is no mantra, nothing when you reach the para stage. And these mantra sadhakas give you a lot of, but here they have divided into um, uh, three ways. It's very interesting. He's saying Sambhava Japa is Prakasha and Vimarsha. That means highest kind of Japa. So you are sort of focusing the attention between Prakasha and Vimarsha, that Shiva and Shakti. Okay. So you are concentrating at the junction between Prakasha and Vimarsha. In case of Shakta Japa, which is in the middle level, you are meditating at a junction between Prameya and a Pramana. Prameya is what you are meditating, Om Namah Shivaya Namah, and Pramana. So you have Prameya and Pramana, that junction. These are all philosophical, technical terms being used. And at the bottom level, you have Prana and Apana. In Gheranda Sahinta, for example, you inhale and you exhale. You have Bahir Kumbhaka and Anta Kumbhaka, and you meditate in between. Anava Japa, that is the bottom level. Then you go to the Shakta Japa and you go to the Sambhava Japa. But when you do these different methods of meditations and chantings, but remember, the person who is Atmastha, what we have studied, Katha Japaha, for him there is no Japa. Whatever he says is Japa. Is that highest level, by the way. So Trigunena tu Japtena Swachanda Sadrusu Bhavete iti Swachanda Sadrishyena Bheda Tiraskaram Asya Uktva. Then we'll go to the next sutra. But this is how he is mentioning about different stages of perfection. And we have just touched the timeline. These the Krishnananda Sagara Tika. I could do it, but there is limited time. Yeah, I think we can look at it when we meet again, because this is a long paragraph. We've just crossed the time. So we are essentially, what we are getting today is that the person who is established in that Atma Bhava, in that Kaivalya Prapti stage, if there is some kind of a rupture in his concentration because of Purva Pratibandhakas or obstacles or Prarabdha, he may become a Karmatma again. But then that's not the end of the story, because if he gets that Ishvara Anugraha, he can regain all his spiritual powers. Why this Sutrakara is mentioning all that to us? First, he warns us that you may be in trouble, you may lose. Don't be very proud about your spiritual achievements. You might slide down. At the same time, he says, yeah, but then there is something called God's grace. And God's grace is going to protect you. To me, that is the most critical thing about this, that you need to have and need to rely on that Ishvara Anugraha. You can do all your sadhana, But without his kindness and grace, it'll be very difficult for you to surmount all the obstacles. And even if obstacles come, you have to have that firm belief that he or she shall pull me out of it, and I shall recover my equanimity in a very good way. And with that, we bring it to a close. If any questions, we'll do the Santi mantras. In case you have anybody has any questions, okay. So we can do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat. Have a good day, and we'll meet again on Thursday.